Welcome to the Udacity Careers webinar with Bosch and David Silver on the topic of autonomous driving. My name is Christopher Newman, and I'm on the Student Engagement and Careers team for Udacity Europe in Berlin. And I'm joined by my colleague Millie, who you can see here in the reflection in the window, to be taking your questions from the live Q&A. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for registering and submitting questions in advance. Unfortunately, I have to say already that we will not be able to get to every single one of your questions because there was a huge number of questions submitted, and we simply had a very large interest in this webinar, which is fantastic. A very brief overview of how the webinar will be structured. So first, there will be a short overview from our representatives from Bosch about the company. Then David Silver will lead the discussion with questions you submitted in advance. And in the third part of the webinar, we will have a live Q&A where you will have a chance to submit questions to our experts on the fly. The way this works is you have to be signed in to YouTube, and then on the live chat channel to the right of the video that you see on YouTube, you will be able to submit questions. Feel free to submit questions at any time. And my colleague Millie will pick them out, and then we'll ask our experts these questions and try to get you some answers. The webinar will run until approximately 9:50, 8 p.m. Central European Time. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our experts that we are honored to have with us today. From Bosch, we have, first of all, Sylvia Stiasny, who is the Senior Manager Recruiting and Young Talent Programs at the HR department in Abstadt, Germany. And she's responsible for all the applications in this office, HR marketing for professionals, talent relationship management programs and internships, and student placements at Bosch. Secondly, we have Mirko Franke, who is the Director Engineering of Automated Driving, responsible for system and function development at the business unit of automated driving at Bosch. And last but not least, I'm honored that we're also joined today by our very own David Silver from Udacity headquarters in Mountain View, California, who is the course lead of the Self-Driving Car Engineer Nanodegree program. Many of you are enrolled, plan to enroll, or have even already graduated from this program. And so welcome to all. And I'd like to hand over to David. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Christopher. I am so delighted to be here. I got to go to Germany for the first time. I've been to Europe many times, but a few months ago, I got to go to Germany specifically for the first time for the International Auto Show in Frankfurt. It was terrific. It was amazing. We got to meet a whole bunch of Udacity students in Europe, and I am really delighted that you all are joining us here for this conversation with Bosch. I'll kick it over to them to introduce Bosch and the autonomous vehicle group there, and then I know there's a lot of interest in what Bosch is doing and how students can get to work with Bosch. So we'll dive into the conversation for that.
Okay, so thank you very much for a kind introduction. Mirko and I, we are very happy today to talk a little bit about Bosch, about the opportunities we can offer in this field, and of course, where we stand within the topic of autonomous driving. So first of all, I would like to actually introduce our company, and don't worry, it won't be long. So, and I prepared like a little slide, so hopefully you can see it. This is Bosch, we are divided into 4 business sectors: mobility solutions, where we actually belong to, then industrial technology, for instance, yogurt, like packaging is part of it, and energy and building technology, security, if you go to a museum and like the really highly priced paintings, for instance, that might be Bosch technology, also heating products, hot water solutions, Junkers, Buderos, just to mention a couple of them. And something you're probably most familiar with are the consumer goods. So power tools and household appliances, such as coffee machines, washing machines, dishwasher, whatever you can imagine. So Bosch is quite a big company, but today the focus is on the mobility solutions, especially the automated driving. So the second slide, it's a little bit, I don't know, it's not, I can go over it. We have a lot of fields of expertise within Bosch. And if we cluster that into function families, So we cover actually topics such as vehicle stabilization and braking, pre-crash intervention, in-crash protection rescue, turning, crossing, travel assistance, park maneuvering, lane keeping, just to mention a few of them. And the last slide I prepared, if we go further down on a product level and you see the car, then it's more or less, as you can imagine, like the intelligence of the car. So our product ranges from like various cameras, near range, mid range, stereo, video, night vision, etc. Sensors like ultrasonic, long range, midterm, also pressure, wheel speed sensors, and of course also brake disc, ESP, hydraulic unit with control units. iBooster is a topic probably quite famous at the moment. Then engine control units, e.g. for Park Pilot, and so on. So we have quite a variety we can offer within Bosch. And I think what's probably of interest to you, just to give you a number this year, that we are really a growing part of Bosch in the location of Albstadt. We added more than 700 jobs this year, just itself, which is quite a big number. And from that, probably about 500 job offers came from external to join us, and some, of course, within the Bosch group. And yeah, one last information about the location of Albstadt. We are the headquarters of the division of chassis systems control. So we are located north of Stuttgart. Like if you know Stuttgart, it's in the southwestern part of Germany. So where we grow wine, so it's really nice. And also our location is surrounded by fortresses, vineyards, etc. And it's a very new location. It's like an engineering campus with a lot of nice amenities, like a gym. We have like a massage service and so on. And of course, different free time activities we offer at the location. And probably get to talk a little bit more later on. So maybe this for the start.
It sounds wonderful. Sounds like a delightful place to work. Sounds like you have some amenities that we need to get here at Udacity headquarters in Mountain View. I'll bring that up with our facilities team. Cool. So we have a whole bunch of questions that have been pre-submitted, plus some questions that I'm personally interested in asking you. And so we'll start with some of these, and then we'll jump to Q&A in about half an hour. I'd love to just start with history. What is Bosch's history in autonomous vehicles? What have you guys done in the past, and how does that bring us to the present?
I will jump in on this one. Yeah. Thanks, David, and thanks also, Christopher, for this introduction. Now jumping a little bit to the achievements, also what we did so far in autonomous driving. I will just be able to go to some of the elements, because otherwise we will be here still in 2 hours. So since 2011, we started developing autonomous driving. So very first from the beginning also have this complete functional development. And since 2013, we are now also driving with self-driving cars on public roads. So firstly, we have started to drive in the US and in Germany, but furthermore, we have extended also our global footprint towards Australia, Japan. And this is important for us because we want to be where our customers are. So this is really important to us to have a worldwide AD global footprint on this one. And based also on this functional development, we have derived requirements for the complete sensor set, for example. Yeah, what do we need in terms of radar? What do we need in terms of video, LiDAR technology? And these are things which will then also be put, or which we put also towards our sensor development units, in order to have then also a good function, an overall perception model for our cars in order to perceive the world outside of the car. Besides that, besides this complete functional development, it is important also to us to look also from an architectural point of view. So what we did right from the beginning also to make up our mind what is required in terms of safety and reliability, That's why we came up also quite in an early stage of autonomous driving, also with an fail operation architecture, which is required in order to drive autonomous vehicles safe and reliable, which means then, okay, we have an overall concept, we have an overall EE architecture, which complies to a fail operational method. So that means, in case, for example, an power supply will fail, we will jump to another power supply. We will then also have a redundant power steering as well as redundant braking system. And this is something we have not just been developed conceptually, but we put it also into our vehicles. So we have now also a functional vehicle, so a self-driving car, which has really then also a reliable and fail operational architecture. Besides that, you might have heard it that we are now also being active on radar road signature. So to have a localization besides video signals, also using our radar signature, which is really supporting to have also a robust localization of a vehicle. So in case video, for example, will not give us the right objects which we need, whatever the reason is for it, have then also a complementary approach using our radar road signature. And this is something we work very heavily on. Additionally, also, there was also a question regarding HMI concept. So if you type in, for example, also YouTube, Bosch and autonomous driving user experience, you will see also a video where we have developed for HMI. But not just having this concept, now we put it also into our vehicles. So we have vehicles really having this HMI concept and this really interaction with a driver towards having an overall function development and an overall vehicle which is not just function, but which also interacts very properly with a driver. Since this year, we have now also been, and you might have heard it as well, we are working now not just on highway autonomous driving, but also on urban autonomous driving, which we jointly undergo together with our colleagues from Daimler. So this is a project which we jointly developed, autonomous driving in urban mode with our colleagues from Daimler in order to have this, the goal to have robotaxis on the road. And last but not least, I want to mention that we focus, of course, also on automated parking. This is something for us. It's a kind of like entry level, let's put it this way, where we gain experience in automated mode, but on low speed maneuvering. And this is something where we have also been developed in a quite early stage, and meanwhile also have customer projects in our hands. So this is just, a variety of several elements of what we have done and what we do in the scope of autonomous driving.
Wow, that is a lot. So, so radar signatures, safety and failover hardware, human-machine interaction, HMI, working with Mercedes and Daimler on robotaxis, automated parking. You guys are doing a whole lot. Right. I'm curious. The Udacity nanodegree program it focuses a lot on software, and I know Bosch does work both on hardware and software. I'm kind of interested in how you see the intersection of hardware, because I myself have some Bosch oil filters. That's kind of very basic hardware. I know Bosch is famous for their radars, lots of other hardware. How do you see software playing a role in what you do?
Software is getting more and more important, and this is something now what we have also. This is a kind of like a task for us, to bring the the world of vehicles, let's put it this way, development of traditional vehicles, together with the overall software development, to have also good software development, and we have to bring these two things basically together. And this will happen in autonomous driving and self-driving cars, to have on one hand side really a good function of the hardware, because it's still required. A vehicle is still driving, and we need reliable systems, we need reliable hardware, and on the other hand, we also need safe and reliable software. So, and these two things come now together, and the first very good example is autonomous driving and self-driving.
Got it. So pairing the software with the hardware to make truly reliable systems. Cool.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, for our students, many of whom would be delighted, I think, to work on autonomous driving at Bosch. What are some of the roles that you all have? I imagine you have different people working on different things. How do you think about the different types of people that you have within the autonomous vehicle group at Bosch?
Yeah. I mean, I also, of course, studied a little bit of the content of the nano degree program, what you teach. And we can say we have roles in all of these fields. And just to give you some examples, we need like a system developer, system architect, we need safety engineers. Of course, system integration is a big topic as well, validation, algorithm development. So we really have a wide variety of different tasks. And all of them are very exciting because all of them are very challenging in a way because it's new territory we enter.
Got it. Yeah, that's a great point. We designed the nano degree in large part kind of based on different groups that people go into at companies like Bosch. So we have a deep learning module, we have a sensor fusion module, we have a localization module, motion planning, path planning, control, functional safety, system integration. So I imagine you have folks working in all of those different areas.
Absolutely.
What do people's day-to-day roles look like? I imagine there's a lot of variation, but people ask me, what I did at Ford. I tell them I did a lot of software development. Sometimes people wonder, like, are they going to be like under the hood of the car, like wiring things together all day? Or are they going to be out on the road? What do you see your engineers doing on your team?
Yeah, if we go, for example, with a localization engineer, yeah, let's put it this way. What are typical activities? I mean, we work in an agile framework, yeah. So this is given for us. We work in several Scrum teams, and let's now think of there's one Scrum team responsible for localization for a certain feature to be developed. Then it typically starts in the morning with a daily stand-up where the people come together who are developing this feature. Then, of course, you go also then to code development in order to have then at the end the feature ready by the end of the sprint. But you also have interaction with people. Yeah, you have interaction with colleagues, and you interact with them and say, okay, what is the best approach doing that? You basically discuss what would be then a good approach for developing and for programming this specific feature. Yeah, it's not happen daily, but then you go also to a simulation. Yeah, you do a simulation of a feature in order to have also then the release of this specific feature at the end. So it's a kind of like continuous integration process which you perform. And then, of course, you also put it into the vehicle and take a look what the function does. And you take the car and drive outside here on our highways in order to check what is the function doing, which I developed. So it's going from pure software development, but also you integrate it into the vehicle. So this is maybe one specific software engineer, but on the other hand, we have also architects, for example. We have requirements engineers, and all these things have to come together. And we have an overall scaled Scrum approach. Yeah, each team of them have a certain goal, and these goals are basically synchronized. And we go from sprint to another sprint and have a continuous update of our goals and targets and achievements.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've always loved about autonomous vehicle development is I came to this from the web development, from a previous career in web development, and in that world you're in front of a computer the whole time, and in this world you get to do a few more things. I feel like I get to use my software development skills a lot, but you also get to be out on the vehicle validating things, working with hardware sometimes. So it's a nice position if you like to do a lot of different things.
Exactly.
Cool. So a lot of our students and people on the webinar are interested in how would they get a job working at Bosch, and I'd love to kind of ask this question to you all from two different perspectives, maybe. One for more recent graduates, maybe somebody who's actually in university now taking the nano degree program, and then someone who maybe is doing what I did earlier in my career, has had a reasonably long career in software development or maybe mechanical engineering in the traditional automotive industry and is looking to get into autonomous vehicles. And so maybe we can take those in order, and just first for new graduates, how do they get hold of you? How do they get into the recruiting pipeline for Bosch? How do they get your attention so that you want to talk with them?
Yeah, I think let's start while you're still a student. I always recommend that it's always good to select some practical or gain some practical experience, and you can do this via an internship. So at Bosch, we offer internships all year round. So there is no particular time. You can just ask and see what's possible. The typical length is like 3 months, sometimes 6 months, also depending sometimes what students like, what is requested by their studies, etc. And of course, there is the chance to write a thesis with us and also be a working student. However, for this particular case, it's important that, of course, the university you are studying, it's close to a Bosch location. When we keep on going, there are also certain programs at Bosch, such as the pre-master program that was when actually in Europe we changed a little bit, or especially in Germany, and came from the diploma to a bachelor and master degree system. And for that, Bosch actually wanted to encourage students to both gain practical experience and also to continue with a master's degree, because the topics we are talking about, it usually requires a very deep knowledge, which is provided then also typically in a master's degree program. And of course, if you go even further, then we have like entry-level programs or the typical direct entry. Of course, here we already talked about that there are different possibilities. What I would strongly encourage is to also use one of the chances to meet with Bosch. I mean, we do a lot of events, we have fairs we join, we have recruiting events if it's really on recruiting, but we do hackathons, we do meetups, etc. It's really a wide variety. Of course, I'm aware that not everybody is from Germany in this community. Here we are really very active and we cover all parts of Germany. We go to different universities. We are active within Formula Student and all these topics. But also our colleagues in the other countries, they do the same kind of activity. So this would also be a nice chance to actually gain some insights into the Bosch group. And then, of course, the simple way or the typical way is to use look for a job. If you really are interested in Bosch, go to the website. It's also totally fine to get connected via Xing or LinkedIn if you find a Bosch colleague you think interesting. I don't know, I think they're really a wide variety. And then if you want to apply, you can do it by our website, but we actually made it even a little bit easier to you. So you can also write and send your CV to this email address, like automateddraiving@debosch.com. So that's the easy way if you are really interested, know what you're interested in.
I just want to underline that also what you said, no matter where you come from, basically. And I think within my area of responsibility, I cannot even count so many cultures are working now together. And this also brings this community close together. I think there is no need to think about, okay, we just have people from Western Europe. No, we also have people from Eastern Europe, wherever they come from, yeah. And in our areas, we have plenty of cultures. People come from all over the world now in this AD community. It makes it so fantastic. This makes, really also being enjoyable because you interact with many people and you also interact with many cultures within our development.
To add a comment, me being an HR person, of course, I checked on nationalities. So I found out we have 55 nationalities right now just at the location of Abstadt.
Wow, that is amazing. What are, just to follow up on that, what are some of the differences, if there are any differences, that candidates should be aware of based on whether they are within Germany right now, or whether they're in an EU country outside of Germany, or maybe a European country that's not in the EU? This webinar is mainly for European students, but not every country in Europe is in the EU. How do some of those differences factor into the hiring process?
Yeah, like in general, what is really important to us is that there is a fit between the task, like requirements by the job, and like the person. So, and if we find this fit, for us, actually doesn't matter which nationality is behind. As I can say, the 55 nationalities, they're really, I mean, we have colleagues from Russia, we have colleagues from even Iran, we have colleagues from India, China, Italy, Spain, and so on. Of course, I must say that there are then differences. Like if we decide, okay, we want to hire this person, then there's a little bit more administration involved to get someone on board that is not coming from within the EU. As you know, for political reasons, but since we have a lot of experience in this, so Bosch supports it with applying and also with relocation afterwards. But that might just take a little bit more time. And there's also no general rule, because this depends from country to country, and then of course there are new rules. But so far, if we wanted someone, we always found the right reasons, and we also, you know, finished with the administration process.
Yeah, so far we were always successful.
So far we were always successful. It needs some patience on all sides, but we were getting there.
Man, that is wonderful to hear. I know in the US it's become a little more challenging on that front, but it's wonderful to hear that for your office in Germany, that's something that you guys have always been able to do. I'd love to come back then and touch on the notion of more experienced students. That's near and dear to my heart, because that's how I came into the autonomous vehicle industry. And I know that a lot of our students actually have substantial experience either in the traditional automotive industry or maybe in software development outside of the automotive industry. And I know there are usually fewer pipelines into companies, into large companies, when you're not coming from university. I remember kind of finding recruiters on LinkedIn when I was looking for jobs, and just sending as many messages out as I could. And you made a great point about trying to come to events and make in-person contacts. Are there other pieces of advice you would offer to people who have more experience and are coming in as more senior engineers, but from a different field?
You mean like in a way of joining Bosch to get in contact?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
how do they get into the pipeline?
Yeah, like to get in contact, it's not so different. Like today, to give you an example, we had the so-called Bring a Friends Day. Okay. So all of our associates could bring a friend, a relative, or whoever is interested in working for Bosch, and then you do like a one-day shadowing. So this could be a way, you know, if you know someone at Bosch, then you connect, or even if you don't know, then you ask for a connection, because the only thing you do is to find someone that lets you do the job shadowing. So that is a very nice thing, I personally, and also the feedback we get, because then it's really realistic. You know, we don't make a show or anything. They really follow, maybe in boring meetings, if this is really the case, maybe in more exciting. So it's really authentic, very authentic, because that's what we believe in is best way to actually find people, if they see how we work, how we, the way we are together, etc. Otherwise, once they join and find out, oh, this is really different than what I saw 2 days ago, it doesn't make sense, you know.
Yeah, but it's definitely not harder for professionals to get into to have a foot into the door. Definitely not. So basically, like you said, David, there's a certain asset you bring from the past, and you have several domains which you need to work on in autonomous driving. Like I said before, either way, it's systems engineering. You come from safety perspective. You have validated systems. You have integrated systems, you have tested systems, you come from a real software development area like localization, planning, etc., perception. there's always a link towards Bosch. Yeah, if there is no specific, I would say, role which you can find in our jobware system, then just use the generic email and you can apply for it. So it's also what we are looking into, and professionals are also required.
Actually, they are, like most of the job, as we said and discussed a couple minutes before, and require a long experience. So we are really looking for professionals. So probably it's even the higher part of jobs right now on the market.
Wonderful. We have a very active student community on Slack and on the forums as part of the Nano Degree program. I know we have a number of students who are currently working at Bosch in the program. So if you're not working at Bosch, maybe you can look online on Slack or somewhere else and find someone who is and ask them to bring you to the next Bring a Friend to Work Day.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
I'd love to follow up actually on what you just said, Sylvia, and ask a little bit about how you think of the Nano Degree as part of the Nano Degree program, as part of the recruiting process. I know when I was at Ford, autonomous vehicles were making this transition from the research and development group into production, and that changed a lot of things in terms of who we were hiring for and what the profile of those people looked like. I myself do not actually have a master's degree in engineering. I'm curious how you think of students who maybe don't have a PhD in this field but have gone through the Nano Degree program as part of the hiring process. How do you look at that?
Yeah. Like in general, for us, it's really important. It's not so much the degree, it's rather what kind of experience people already come with when they join Bosch. What is the type of requirements on the task? So we are really more than willing, if we find someone who, who has maybe not a PhD or maybe not even a university degree, to try it, as long as there is the fit between the person and the job requirement. Because if you have been working for 20 years, I mean, there's so much experience. I think you can make up for a lot of things. However, what we also know from experience that for particular types of jobs, of course, it's very helpful and sometimes necessary to hire a PhD because they are trained in a totally different way of thinking. And maybe this is nothing like you can be trained that easily just by working, because it's really doing research, etc., methodological things. So I think the good thing within Bosch, we offer like a lot of things with different levels of expertise, etc. So to answer and summarize, yet it is possible also without the PhD degrees for some types of job. We prefer a PhD candidate out of experience.
I just want to underline, I see this program very positive, and I would like to mention maybe two things in there. On one hand side, we really get the students also into the world of autonomous driving. So it's a kind of like a training, it's kind of like a learning into this overall domain of autonomous driving. But on the other hand, I think the students can already kind of like apply their knowledge, but also on the other hand can maybe figure out in which domain they perform best. And is it localization? Maybe is it a domain of localization I want to work in, or is it really something I want to work into sense data fusion? Is it something I want to work into neural networks, etc. pp? This is something then a student can already figure out, and during the interview, which we maybe do. Then a student can already give us a straight or a little bit more direction towards a certain area he wants to work in. So I really see these two elements.
And also to add one thing, David, it is what we see from the Udacity students. As you said, even some Bosch colleagues are going to this Nano Degree program, and they do it because they are highly motivated to find out more in this topic. They do it in their spare time. So, and this is actually, I mean, Bosch is run by passion. a lot of people think we are big, we are slow, but this is not the case. Actually, when you dig deeper and when you get to know us, then what really Bosch stands for, we have a lot of associates who've been with Bosch for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. That's something that really impressed me when I joined Bosch from external, and they're still show so much passion every day. And really like it. It's not just a job. Sometimes it's also a hobby for them. And then, of course, if you are successful in the thing you're doing, then they show me as an HR person, look, Sylvia, in this car is what I developed, and so on. And that's something also I think we stand for.
Oh, that's wonderful. One thing I know about the nano degree is it requires a lot of passion to get through. It is a lot of work. Our students report spending now about 17 hours a week on the program, and many of them are doing this on top of full-time jobs in engineering or other fields. So, so it's delightful to know that if they're really, really excited about this, that
we appreciate that work.
Yeah.
Cool. So I would love to know a little bit about how someone like gets your attention. So they've maybe come to bring a friend to Workday. They've sent their email into into the email address you just showed, or their CV. How do they stand out from the, I'm sure, thousands of other CVs that you get? Maybe you even have some examples of people you've seen recently who really popped out at you and you thought, I'd really love to interview this particular candidate because of this reason or that reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a miracle, to be honest, but what's really important is that, as I mentioned already, it's the passion. We want to feel it, even if it's within the CV, somehow with the cover letter, that there's the statement about it, why they really want to do this kind of job, why they want to join Bosch. That is important to us. And then, of course, what really helps us as an HR person, who have to look through all of the CVs, because this is not done by a robot right now. There are actually people behind all the the system and check each application, that you show how you match on that particular position. And that really helps us, and that really separates to be more successful and come through the application process. If we have a particular job requirements, then you just match yourself on the requirements. And if, let's say, you don't have the experience in this particular field, then please state how you think you will make up for it. And then prove also, if this is possible, how you've done that in the past. And if you do this, I'm really sure that then your CV will be forwarded to our colleagues from the technical department, and they will call you and so on. And then you're in the process, and then it's really up to you to convince and show what's in you.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about then one last thing, which is the last step in the process, which is, so I've sent my CV into you. I've shown you how I match the job and why I'm excited about it. What does the hire or the interview process look like, the selection process? And maybe we can start with a fairly logistical question. Is it in German? We have students from all over Europe. What kind of German proficiency is necessary to get through the interview process?
As I said, this also depends. Like for some of the projects people are working on, let's say if they're German customers and so on, German will be required, sure. There are other things that doesn't matter. So we do interviews in both German and English, really depending. For instance, we also have American clients, US American clients. So then it's much more important that someone can speak English than German.
Okay.
You know? So it really depends, but of course language, like you don't need to speak German when you're coming, but I strongly recommend, of course, once you're here in Germany, to then getting familiar with the language, because it's also be integrating into the culture. That always helps. It's not necessary, because I think almost everybody speaks English, also in the cities, but of course it helps to get along. And I know from some colleagues, we are not allowed to speak English with them because they want to study German.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right, so you've matched me with a job. In my case, I don't speak German, so maybe you've matched me with an English-speaking job, or for our students who do speak German, maybe a German-speaking job. What does the technical interview process look like?
Yeah. Technically, I think it starts already with this kind of like a feeling, where's the person interested to which role does the person apply to. Then we select the respective technical experts on it. We typically then also do for software development and programming test. Yeah, it's in C++, so it's a prerequisite for us. So people also should then be familiar then also with also other programming languages like Python. It's basically a kind of like a process, not in a specific programming language, but it's about the methodology behind programming. Yeah, and then we have this certain test, and then we also invite the person towards the team. Yeah, and then we have interaction with the team, with the Scrum team, with the expert team, and also to see what is the specific needs in this team. Does it fit also to the person who applied to, and there's like a matching and a pairing, and this is, I would say, done within one day. We do it typically. So this programming skill test can be done offline. So there will be then an official assessment. We will scoring have this is then also be hand over to the person, and then we will have this kind of like a personal interaction on a team base. Yeah, where the team is looking to get support, but also then from HR side to have this, I don't want to say traditional, but I don't find a better word, but we will have this interview process also from HR side. So, and we put then all these things together from an expert level, from a technical level, as well as from HR, but also then the feedback from the person, yeah, who wants to work in the team, if it's really then also the atmosphere, and if everything fits, then we come to an have feedback then basically also to the person.
Okay, cool. It sounds similar to many other technical interview processes I've gone through. It sounds like there's a kind of an offline coding assessment
right.
that a lot of companies are starting to move towards, and I think is great because it gives you, I think, a more realistic sense of someone's ability to be successful in the role than often whiteboard coding does. So that's great.
Fantastic. Guys, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a lot more pre-submitted questions, but we said we would like to give the students watching live an opportunity to ask some live questions. So maybe, David, if you've already gotten some live questions, we could move on to those.
Yeah. So we have one live question about the Bosch Automated Mobility Academy. This is a website that Bosch has put together that talks about what Bosch is doing with autonomous vehicle development. I don't know if you've seen it. Bosch, a huge company, they probably put out websites all the time that not everybody gets a chance to see. I know that even happens at Udacity. But the larger question is, what types of events and resources is Bosch putting out there for people who are interested in autonomous vehicle development? Are there things you'd recommend that they attend, hackathons you hold, or documents you're publishing, research papers you're publishing, things that they can participate in to get closer to Bosch?
Yeah, I think a really good way is to join one of the events. Like a hackathon is good. I mean, next year in Berlin, there will be the Bosch Connected World. It's really a big conference where you can find out about a lot of topics. Use all these things. They are actually also stated on the career website of Bosch. What's going on, and so you can check on the website and then decide if you're interested in, and that would be a good way to join.
Okay. Cool. There's another question.
Hang on a second. Is this something where you can really look at, where you have these different elements like these fairs and trade shows, whatever, where we are?
Like, yeah, they're stated. They are stated what
in this web page David was mentioning.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least on the general Bosch web page also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from Elias. This is a question I think about someone who's already working at Bosch, but I think this is applicable probably to many of our European students, many of whom I think are already working in different automotive companies. Elias asks, I am very interested in the attitude and position of HR regarding experienced engineers within the company who want to reshape their careers via Udacity. So how do you think about that? People who are in other parts of the company and are taking the nano degree or maybe doing other things to try and get closer to autonomous vehicles.
Oh well, that's I shouldn't say it too loud because maybe then the other parts of Bosch, don't like to hear it because they don't want to lose their experienced associates. But yeah, of course, that's possible. And actually, it's also one part of Bosch that we strongly recommend at least once in a while to also change. It's one career element we have that you change, like the division, for instance, that you might even change the function, like change from, let's say, manufacturing to development and so on to sales. So this is something we already have at Bosch. And as you said, I know also a couple of colleagues who are right now actually doing the nano degree program with the self-driving car engineer program. So we are waiting for you guys. Join us.
All right. We have a question about someone coming maybe from the research end of the world. So we have a number of students in the program who are in doctoral programs, but also taking the nano degree program to either get closer to autonomous vehicle development or improve their coding skills. And we have one question from Spring, I guess, about the ratio of research versus development. Do people in your group publish papers? How much time do they spend doing research versus doing production software? How do you think about that division?
It's a good question, yeah, and coming also now a little bit from the past. Let's put it in this way. In 2011, 12, 13, everything was kind of like a research and advanced development for us. Now we get more and more into the area of serious development to have real projects running with our customers. But on the other hand, we should not forget that the technology is moving still. Yeah, so there is no industrial standard. So still we have to do research, and it needs to have a good ratio. Yeah. It's a little bit difficult to say what the ratio is. Yeah, I would say if you look, for example, now to LiDAR development, this is really also research. But if you look, for example, radar development, then it is less research because we come already with the 5th generation out of it. So there is not a typical ratio which I would like to mention. It depends really on the specific domain. Of course, in the new domains like localization, mapping, a radar road signature, this ratio is much higher towards research and development and not just application. Yeah, so.
But of course, to add to that, if someone is really interested in just producing papers, going to conferences, doing only research, then of course there are also areas within Bosch, like the corporate research, where they do this kind of work. But we, in our divisions, we are more, hands-on, more closer to the product.
Absolutely. So there we have a centralized research area. It's called CR, Corporate Research, and these people are really doing then also this core, I would say, really research development going from now into 5 or 10 years from now.
Okay. Cool. So a lot varies on what your interests are and then what role you end in, and even the division within Bosch, because different divisions have different mandates as far as how much research they're doing versus production. Okay. We have a whole bunch of questions, but I know we promised to wrap up at about 10 till. So I will I'll close with one more that's a little more technical. And is something I get asked a lot, and I would love to hear your opinion on it. People ask me a lot, and one of our students or attendees on the webinar asked, what is the hardest area of autonomous vehicle development? And it's hard to choose one.
Oh, wow.
I usually say a few. I usually say mapping is really, really hard because it's just so expensive to keep the maps up to date, and finding a better way to do localization and mapping is really important. Path planning is really tough because there's not really a state-of-the-art solution for urban path planning and motion planning. And then computational hardware, because there's just so much data coming in off the sensors, and you're constrained with power and other resources on the vehicle. And so finding better computational hardware is really, really important. So those are the three I pick, but I'm curious, and you can just repeat the same three if you agree, but I'm curious.
I should be on the same side.
Absolutely, these sites and elements also for computing are essential, but I would like to put one more topic in here, and this is to have a safe and reliable system at the end. Because we need to release it. There is no driver anymore. So the system is responsible for driving. So I don't want to put a specific domain. I just want to say, okay, validation method and release strategy is something we have to keep in mind. If you would have asked me like 3 or 4 years ago, I would also most probably have said, okay, perception is it most difficult because we have to have sensor data fusion or mapping, etc. But nowadays, I think these corner cases which we have and where we have the system limits, this will then also depend on if you release a system or if you will not be able to release a system. So therefore, of course, all elements are important, but validation and release strategy of the overall system is one of the most important.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. We cover functional safety in the nanodegree program, but there's a lot more to validation and verification even than just functional safety. And as we see self-driving cars get closer and closer to actually being on the roads with people and carrying real civilians, validating that everything works properly and is safe and reliable is hugely important.
Absolutely.
Cool. I think we'll wrap up there. I know there are a lot more questions. Maybe we can do this again. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you joining. It's one of the great joys of working at Udacity is getting to work with great companies like Bosch, who are so excited about hiring our students and about the work that our students are learning about. So I really appreciate your time on this.
So I would like to say also thank you very much for this interesting conversation. I feel like we could keep going all night for us Europeans and all day for David. And I'd like to thank you for your input and all your expertise. And just a few notes personally, feel free to join the Udacity Community Europe Facebook group for more information on whatever's happening, events in the self-driving car space and related to our other nanodegree programs around Europe. Follow Udacity Europe on Twitter. Be sure to subscribe to David's fantastic blog on self-driving cars on Medium, and email us at eu-support@udacity.com if you want to talk to the Europe team and the careers team here in Europe. We're working hard on localizing a bunch of other resources for all kinds of Udacity students and graduates across Europe, so stay tuned. Once again, thanks to David, Sylvia, and Mirko for your time here, and we'll be sending around an email with further information to all those registered for the webinar. And on that note, I'd like to wish everyone a nice evening and a good day, David. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you also from our side. Bye-bye, and keep on going. We wait for you. Bye.
Bye-bye.